Brett Stinchfield here. This is the Stinchfield Report on News and Information, 570 KLIF. So, you know that I love this whole Donald Sterling debacle. What's going to happen with the Clippers? I see a poll that comes out now that he's the most hated man in America. I mean, he's got lower approval ratings than Barack Hussein Obama. How about that? And so there are all kinds of updates coming out about this story. So first it comes out this week that he signed over all his rights to his wife and he tasked her with the job of selling the Clippers. Then, yesterday, word comes out that he says, hell no, I'm not selling the team. I don't care what I said. He's come out of his fog, and he's going to fight like the Dickens. To talk about all of the legal ramifications of this, what could possibly happen, Mazin Sbaiti. He is an attorney with the Steckler Law Firm. I want to thank you for coming on the Stinchfield Report today.
Thank you, Grant. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. So, first off, he signs a letter. TMZ actually obtained a copy of the letter where he signed the letter saying, hey, go ahead, my estranged wife. Start to facilitate the sale of the team. Now he's backing off that. How damning is that letter, and can the wife just go ahead and sell it anyway?
Well, one of the other things that's come out is that the team is actually owned by a trust. So him just writing a letter to his wife may not actually have any kind of legal ramification. There are probably duties and other types of paperwork that would have to be done if he was the trustee of the trust that owns the team for him to get her to go and sell the team. He doesn't personally own it. It's almost like the president of a company sort of popping off and saying, yeah, I'm going to sell the major assets of this company. There's other things, there are duties, fiduciary duties that are owed to the company that may have been violated or that he can sort of correct.
Well, you raised that issue about you raised that issue about the trust, and what's interesting is it was raised with the NBA as well, saying, hey, this organization is owned by a trust, by not an individual. How are you going to kick Donald Sterling out? The NBA countered and said, hey, he set up the trust. He signed the papers for the trust. He signed all the papers with the NBA, agreeing to all the terms of the NBA Constitution, that Donald Sterling was actually the one that signed it. I mean, it's a mess here.
I think it's a complete mess, and the NBA actually may have hurt itself by jumping the gun on that lifetime ban. You can imagine a world now where the NBA sues to, they vote him out and they sue to enforce their vote, and a judge looks at them and says, well, we've already banned the guy. Who cares who owns the team at this point? A trust owns it. If he gets the benefits of it, who cares? So I think that is part of the mess. The other part of the mess, of course, is going to be the fact that the NBA's franchise contract, may not be enforceable under these circumstances since everything he said was reprehensible, but he didn't say it out loud. And usually these franchise agreements are written that if they make a statement or if they bring disrepute, the owners bring disrepute to the league, they may have their franchise foregone. But his argument back is going to be, but I'm not the one who did this. Somebody else aired this laundry. It's not me who did this. Somebody else did it.
In what he expected to be a private conversation that was actually illegally recorded.
Exactly, and someone else is airing his private thoughts and his dirty laundry. I think he's going to have a pretty good argument. I don't think a jury will buy it, but this may not end up going to a jury. It may only go to a judge if we're talking about purely injunctive relief. And a judge may say, yeah, this wasn't his actions that caused the disrepute to the NBA.
You know, what's interesting is when I worked as an investigative reporter, my attorneys at NBC would always say, hey, it's not whether or not you can win the suit or whether you have a legal right to say this or do this. It's whether or not a jury is going to side with us. And that's an important aspect, isn't it?
That's absolutely right. And if he's going to hire some smart lawyers who probably can angle this in a way that it won't actually reach a jury, that a lot of the legal issues will be decided just by a judge, probably a federal judge, who isn't going to be as swayed by public opinion. But they'll obviously want to do the right thing, given what's in the contract and given the facts before them.
All right, we're talking with Mazin Sbaiti. He is attorney with the Steckler Law Firm. So, Mazin, if Donald Sterling calls you up tomorrow and says, hey, help me, what's your first move?
I really want to read that contract. The actual agreement hasn't been published. So that's the first thing you'd want to know. You want to know exactly how much discretion the NBA has. Have they already fired the only bullet they have, which is to ban him And if the owners can vote him out, then we'd want to take a look at the procedures that the owners are going through in order to vote him out, and what the implications are for him. You know, going back to the issue you just raised, what he really has is a ton of leverage to drag this out, and he knows the NBA and the owners are going to want to put this behind them. So he's actually got a lot of leverage on his side for either steering the ownership one way, or at least avoiding having to sell the team, or forcing his trust to sell the team outright. And those would be the angles I would want to look at, not so much the little dots, but in terms of what's the battlefield look like.
Now, you know, I think the NBA could probably win banning him from life, but I don't know if they could win to force him to sell the team. I mean, they could say, hey, remove yourself from all basketball operations. But to sell the team, I mean, where does the Constitution of the United States come in versus the Constitution of the NBA? And just because they're a private organization, does it mean it usurps the Constitution of the United States?
It depends on what part of the Constitution we're talking about. If we're talking about just the First Amendment, the NBA probably has a good legal argument that says the day he signed on as a franchisor of the NBA, he waived certain of his First Amendment rights. We do that all the time. But again, did he waive his First Amendment rights to speak quietly in his own house when someone else records him and broadcasts that? Then I think he'll have a good argument to say he never breached that contract. So it may not end up being a First Amendment issue outright.
And, you know, I don't even think this is a First Amendment case. I mean, no one's saying he can't
Right.
say these things. I mean, the NBA is just saying, hey, if you say these things, you're not going to be a part of our club. But you're still allowed to go out and say them. He's still allowed to go out and say them. He just can't do it and expect to be a member of this private organization. So what do you...
Exactly. And this is a revenue-based organization. If they believe having him as an owner hurts their bottom line, then they want to have the right to kick him out, or at the very least to ban him. So, and that's what they did.
Lastly, I'll ask you to look into your crystal ball real quick. Do you think he ultimately is forced to sell this team?
I don't know. I think he'll end up selling it before he's forced to, because I think he's going to have a hard time getting players to come play for him in the long run. I think he's going to he's going to lose the value of the team if he doesn't sell it, and I think that process will be a lot faster than any judicial or court proceedings.
I'll make you a deal. If he doesn't sell it by next season, I'll bet you $5 the players making millions come back to play for him anyway.
Oh, I don't know that I would take the opposite side of that bet, but if you give me 2 years, I might.
All right, sounds good. Mazin Sbaiti, we appreciate you coming on the Stinchfield Report today, and good knowledge. We appreciate you sharing it with us.
Thanks, Grant. Thanks for having me on. Have a good day.
You too.